Hi, class, and welcome to the first video, chapter one of the IFC Mutual Fund course. Introduction to Mutual Fund Marketplace will be the title of chapter one. There's some certain things that we're going to get done discussing this chapter. Our objectives are to be able to describe what the evolution has been of the mutual fund industry. We'll look at and explain the value of having a professional license. We'll identify your legal, ethical, and professional responsibilities. We will list and describe the 6 components of what we call the Know Your Client or KYC rule. And finally, we'll look at understanding your role in the client relationship and how it differs from a financial planner. So let's start off by discussing what a mutual fund is. So a mutual fund is a professionally managed investment that pools money from many investors to buy a diverse portfolio of securities like stocks and bonds. This allows people to invest in a wide range of companies for a low cost and without needing to be an expert themselves. So one thing I do when I'm discussing what a mutual fund is with some of my clients or potential clients, I'll use an analogy, the fruit salad analogy. So a mutual fund is like a fruit salad. Instead of buying just one type of fruit for yourself, you and a group of friends each contribute some money into a shared bowl. A professional chef then uses all the pooled money to buy a wide variety of fresh, ripe fruits, apples, bananas, strawberries, and more, to create a delicious salad. Everyone gets to enjoy a bit of every type of fruit, benefiting from the expert's selection and the diversity of ingredients. Another example I've used with clients is that a mutual fund is like a basket. You hold the single basket. Inside that basket are a wide variety of different investments like stocks, bonds, GICs, and savings accounts. Instead of having to go out and buy the individual stocks, bonds, and savings accounts, you can simply buy just the basket, which then holds all the investments within it. So, a brief history of mutual funds. They date back over 2 centuries, likely started in the Netherlands or England. The purpose of them was to provide ordinary investors with access to professionally managed and diversified portfolios at a lower cost. And the impact has been democratized investing, and it's made it accessible to a wider population. If you look back in history, the ability to buy into certain investments and invest money in certain areas was limited to those that had expertise and or large amounts of money. With the introduction of mutual funds, it has allowed access to many different investments to all types of people, regardless of the amount of money you have to invest. So it has really opened up the investment marketplace. The Canadian mutual fund industry grew fairly slowly up until World War II and really boomed between the 1980s and the 1990s. Some of the key driving factors were the entry of chartered banks, a strong economic climate, and increased product variety. The current scale in Canada, the mutual fund industry is approaching the $2 trillion in assets under management, meaning that there is almost $2 trillion invested with mutual funds. Now, having a professional license, which is something that this course gets you one step closer to. This course, if you pass the final exam, would meet the educational requirements to having a professional license to sell mutual funds. So the value of your professional license is the commitment. You've demonstrated your commitment to professional development. You've put in the time and the effort to study and to pass an exam. Competence proves that you understand what mutual funds are and how to recommend suitable mutual funds to clients. It shows responsibility. It signifies your awareness of your fiduciary duty to the client. We'll get into fiduciary duty a little bit more, but it means always putting your client first. And then integrity. It shows regulators that you understand their role in protecting the industry and thus protecting the clients. So when you break down your responsibilities as a licensed mutual fund salesperson, you have three main responsibilities. You have legal responsibility, ethical responsibilities, and professional responsibilities. So legal means to ensure that all recommendations that you make are suitable for the client. Your ethical responsibility means that you place the client's needs ahead of your own and your dealers. No matter what the case, no matter what the situation, the client's interests must be the top priority for you to make a recommendation and thus a sale. Then there's your professional responsibility. You're to provide the best possible client service to your clients. So there's a main rule in this course that you'll hear and that you should get to learn as part of the exam in the course. It's the KYC rule, the Know Your Client rule. And what that means is that you must take reasonable steps to learn the essential facts about your clients. This is basically you covering all that you need to, asking the right questions and getting to know your client enough to satisfy any regulator that you've done your due diligence before making a recommendation to the client. So the 6 parts to the KYC or Know Your Client rule are: 1, personal circumstances. For example, what is the client's name? Are they married? How old are they? Number 2 is the financial circumstances. Do they own a house? Do they have a certain amount invested in an RSP or in a savings account? Number 3, the investment needs and objectives. For example, is a client saving for the short term and they're going to be using these funds to purchase a house in the next 6 months? Step 4, or number 4, is investment knowledge. How much previous experience and knowledge does this client that you're talking to have regarding investing in general and specifically mutual funds? Number 5, risk profile. So we need to understand how much risk a client is willing to take, should take, or can take in regards to an investment before you make a recommendation. And number 6, the investment time horizon. So how long does this client expect that the funds you're dealing with or talking about today will stay invested? You might make a different recommendation. For example, like I said, for a client who has only 6 months to invest and will need those funds to use as a down payment for their house. That's a short time horizon. You're going to recommend different investments for that person compared to maybe a pre-retiree, someone getting close to retirement, who still needs their funds to stay invested and create income for the next 20 or 30 years during retirement. 2 different time horizons, 2 different risk profiles, 2 completely different people that would get 2 completely different recommendations. One of the other rules that goes along with the KYC or Know Your Client rule is the Know Your Product rule. So not only do you need to fully understand the client that is in front of you, you need to fully understand the products that are available for you to recommend. So the KYP rule, it's an essential companion to the KYC. You must have a comprehensive knowledge of every fund that you recommend. You must understand the key information, understanding the fund's structure, features, risks, and all the costs associated to your recommendation. And the importance to use this knowledge to properly assess suitability. So again, understanding fully the product, how it works, how much it costs, how it compares to other possible recommendations. That makes up the KYP rule, the Know Your Product rule, that goes along with the KYC or Know Your Client rule. Again, both equally important. You need to fully understand a client and their circumstances. You also need to fully understand a product, its features, benefits, and costs. So your role versus a financial planner. So if you think this course is the beginning of your potential career or someone's career taking this course to be a mutual fund sales representative, you don't necessarily have a 10-year or 15-year experience in an industry. You're new to this. You're new to the role. You're new to some of the topics we're discussing. Potential jobs as a mutual fund sales representative might be working in your local bank, or RBC, for example, as a mutual fund sales representative. That person has enough knowledge to make recommendations. They have enough knowledge to ensure that mutual funds that are recommended to a client are suitable. They can perform purchases and they can educate the clients about them. Myself, I am a financial planner. I'm actually a certified financial planner. My designation is a CFP. That requires a certain amount of industry experience, a certain amount of education, and an elevated expertise or knowledge on all things finance when it comes to persons. That is a financial planner. The difference being that a mutual fund representative might focus solely on one specific topic or one specific transaction. Financial planners are responsible and held to a higher standard to ensure that they're considering the entire financial lifespan of a client that's in front of them. The reason we want to differentiate that is when you have a difficult client, a difficult situation, a more complex situation, it might be necessary to have someone referred or introduced to someone who's got greater knowledge or expertise, like a financial planner, when you start your career as a mutual fund sales representative. So your foundations for success, your role is built on trust, integrity, and diligence. You need to uphold your legal, ethical, and professional responsibilities. And you need to diligently apply the principles of both the KYC and the KYP rules. And you must always place your client's interest first and above all. That's the end of Chapter 1. Please ensure that you are reading the chapters in full and not relying solely on these videos for your studying. Although I attempt to focus on the key aspects of each chapter, the final exam will not be written by myself. It'll be written by the course provider, which is the CSI, or Canadian Securities Institute. And their examination questions will be difficult and could be based on any single detail inside their textbook. So please read carefully the entire textbook, each chapter individually, and review my presentations for a better understanding of each chapter.